Welcome to Club E. Hi, I'm Rick Brimacombe of Brimacombe and Associates. I am your architect of business growth and will work with you to unlock your potential and amplify the scale of your company. Today, we're talking about how to get in early on the independent career movement. I want to thank our sponsors, Irish Titan, an e-commerce and web development firm, Boulay Group, CPAs and advisors, Highland Bank, a locally owned community bank, Romaine Berg, a digital marketing agency, Minnesota Sales, a sales acceleration firm, Host Pros USA, a managed service provider of website support, and the Network Connect. Subscribe and like our Club E channel. It's going to take a moment, so I'll wait for you. All right, get down there right by the video, hit the subscribe button, and that will allow us to deliver better content to you, our wonderful audience, as well as let you know when we are going live. Also, if you didn't know, you can now catch Club E on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and many others. So you can catch us here in video format or listen to our podcast. All right, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, John Arms. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, John, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your firm, and the various things that you're up to.
Sure. Yeah. And thanks again for having me. It's super nice to be part of this entrepreneurial community. A little bit about me. Well, I'm on my fifth business. So that's something. I was kind of counting them up last night. And with Voyager, which I'll talk more about here today, before this, I had an agency that I had founded, and that was a 14-year journey. I have my own consultancy as a marketing fractional CMO. I've got a couple of side hustles. I got a little furniture making business and a custom duck call making business, and that's all about salvaging wood and sort of the heritage and fun. Those are definitely labors of love. So is that 5 businesses? And then with Voyager University, that's my latest and it's 2 years now, but current endeavor in this category. So that's one thing about me. The important stuff is I've got 3 wonderful boys. My wife and I have 3 wonderful boys we're raising here in the Twin Cities. And that's probably the most important thing. But now, along with my business partner, Jason Voyevich, I focus on Voyager U and helping people bring themselves into the independent workforce.
Sure. And before we get to the Voyager U stuff, how can somebody learn a little bit more about your woodworking businesses?
Oh, well, on Facebook and Instagram, I have pages. It's actually just my personal stuff, and that's where I post my projects that I'm working on, and I have contact information. So those are my 2 venues for that. Or of course, they can always just call me as well.
Sure. So again, tables, benches, and then also duck calls.
Duck calls. Yeah, that's a labor of love. I don't have the giant beard or the Southern drawl that what we know about duck call making, but duck call making is a lot like, people make their own fishing lures or make their own compound bows. It's very much a passion project. And I've been doing it mostly for Ducks Unlimited and Sierra Club and other conservation to raise money for them. But it generates some revenue, and quite honestly, time on the lathe is very good mental time. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. All right, say before we get to our event, I want to tell our audience what they can receive for their participation. If you put your questions into the comment field, and today's hashtag is independence, hashtag independence, one winner is going to receive a complimentary 3-month subscription to Voyager U. And then also for all of our Club E members, if you join Voyager U, you get 1 free month upon becoming a member. Just type in the code new trail, TRAIL, new trail. Again, put your questions in the comments field, hashtag independence, and one winner will receive a free 3-month trial to Voyager U. And to learn more about that, you can go to the courses section on clube.com. Again, that's in the courses section on clube.com. All right, so John, tell us a little bit about how Voyager U got started. Was there like an aha moment that you and Jason had that caused you to get going on this journey?
Yeah, I'd say there was a series of aha moments that Jason and I came across along the way. And I think the first aha moment was more of an Jason and I had observed a couple of years ago that we had both been in the professional services industry for our careers, and we observed just how much of that professional service, whether it was marketing or engineering, was getting pulled in-house. So not using outside resources. So that was sort of, and we both had businesses that thrived on that. So we're like, well, that was enough. Oh, and what we realized is, and that trend continues, people pulling people in-house to get a lot of their professional stuff done. So the aha moment that came out of that Jason and I recognized was, well, how long is it going to be before those companies realize having that staff and everything that comes with that in-house is going to really hit that bottom line, and they're going to feel that probably more than they expected. And that is where we realized they're probably getting more than they bargained for. So the aha was hiring fractional consultants, freelancers, gig is cheaper, and with no reduction in quality. In fact, a higher outcome of quality than having outside resources or some inside resources. So that was a big aha moment for us.
And then with all the different things that you've been up to, obviously very entrepreneurial, the spirit of drive and innovation and creation is strong with you. Did you have someone in your life that role modeled that, or that was a mentor to you regarding being an entrepreneur?
For sure, I did. Several folks. I've been very blessed to have people, help me in that. Mark Lasik here in the Twin Cities, he's been a great sounding board, and he's just such a great guy. He's a guy you want to go fishing with, but he's got great ideas. He's been there, done that. So he's been a great mentor and guiding force for me. But I've had help from others too. Dave Witzig, who used to run e-commerce at Super Value, he's just been great. Sounding board. Allie Mern, here in the Twin Cities, she used to have a big role at Aveda, and now she's on her own. Just great people to help. They're adventurers, I think, and they have a little bit more of an entrepreneurial bend. So they've been super helpful. The last, and certainly not the least, is a good friend, Jeff Petraeus over at Thomson Reuters. He's been a great mentor over the years. So I mean, I could go forever on all the help I'm getting. Nobody gets success alone, yourself included, and others. But those are some good mentors for me.
So you and I have known each other for a number of years. Jason, I worked with many years back as well. In fact, the "Grow or Die" tagline with Brimacombe and Associates came from Jason. So anyway, hat tip to you and Jason. You guys do great work. Say we've now been working formally together on Voyager U for about 4 months. What are the top couple of things that you've learned with our interactions during that time period?
Yeah, I think they all fit into one category, and that is growth. The interactions are just related to that. Since you and I have been working together, I only know what I know, and Jason only knows what he knows. And you allowed us to, you helped us get to a better understanding of really getting to know our customers and getting better at that, and the yield you get out of that. A better understanding of the marketplace. How do we grow in there? And in fact, recently we've taken on Traction as an operating system that was at your recommendation. So all of those growth things have really helped us grow. And through our interactions, I think I'm missing one. Just how to grow. It's like, do you just need an influx of cash? Are there certain skills? It is a custom thing. And I think a lot of people have like, well, you grow by this, and here's the recipe. It's not the case. So it's a custom thing. So learning how to grow has been the biggest part for us.
And then one of the things that stuck out with me that we talked about way back when you're going into a meeting, and I used the phrase DOA, didn't want you to go to that meeting and be DOA on arrival. Anyway, yeah, we've had some good learnings.
Mm-hmm. And we continue to.
Yeah. So talk a little bit now, dive into a little bit more about Voyager U. What exactly is a portfolio career?
Yeah, so a portfolio career, it's pretty simple. Rather than get all of your revenue from a single job, you get it from a diverse portfolio of revenue streams. So it's that simple. You treat your career like a stock portfolio, and you diversify it. So at its core, that's what it is. It's typically where consultants and freelancers and gig people live. It's a very comfortable space. More recently, we've heard the term fractionals and gig to that, but that's typically you're getting revenue from several sources at any given time. What's interesting, what we've learned and are kind of blessed to be part of, didn't know this going in. So another aha moment was people who have the portfolio career itch or need to go that way, they might have a fractional capability. They might be a great engineer or a great, person in finance or CFO or marketing. And they can take those skills to the marketplace, which is awesome. But by gosh, at least 80% of the people in a group, they've got a little itch for a side hustle or writing a book. Some are even thinking about doing, franchises. It's pretty cool. Didn't know that. Didn't know how many people have 2 or 3 side hustles. And of course, you turn them into revenue. You treat them like a business. You turn them into revenue. So that really is the portfolio career. And it's a different thing. It sort of fits in that. Is this the sharing economy? Is this, just freelance? Is it, am I subcontracting? But when you think about it as a portfolio career, it's a more stable way to sort of secure your career.
Not only portfolio career, but portfolio life.
Exactly. And I think that's a big flip we found in COVID here is of all the things it's teaching us is the balance of our life and how important it is to be with family and pay attention to our health and balance those things. And that's part of the portfolio career.
So obviously there's a process to going independent, especially for folks that have been in corporate America their entire career. Explain to the Clubby audience the actual process one has to go through to take the leap and become independent.
Yeah. So, part one is learning. You definitely have to learn what the life is like. That's the first part of the process. You can't just jump into this and hope it's all going to work out. You have to go in with your eyes wide open. And that's what we're doing with Voyager U with our coursework, 5 chapters and 100 classes so you can learn all the various aspects of it. But part one is learning. And we put a structure to that, speaking of process. So we have something we call Explorer, and that's where you assess and figure out where you're going with the skills you have. And then we have this thing, and they're acronyms, right? Every letter stands for something and where you're going on Explorer. And then we've got this thing called Wasted, and it's more of an assessment of the last 15, 20, 30 years of your career. And we're not saying it's wasted, it's just you can make better use of it possibly in the independent life. So that is part of it. Part two is structure over time. So one is learning, it's just different than the full-time thing. So part two is structure over time. So what does that look like? After you've done your learning, as you do your learning, we've created this thing called the 3-3-3 method, 3 days to jump. And then 3 days to begin 3 weeks to begin networking. And then 3 months to have your first client, and then building clients after that. You have to have a structure to it over time. It's not just learning. So that's a big part of it. The third part, which is the big thing, is how you network. As Jason says, as goes your networking, so goes your career. And this is where we're spending a lot of time and energy and doing a lot of innovation on what is networking for the independent career, for the portfolio career. And it's different. You have to ask yourself some questions. Is it helpful for me in networking, for example, to have 5,000 LinkedIn connections, only 2% I ever talk to? Is there yield there? And now, I'm not saying LinkedIn is bad. I'm just saying the networking we have right now, we've got all this tech that's sort of advanced, but it seems like networking is a little bit in the dark ages. Just blast yourself out there enough and get to enough places, and something will come out of that. So we're really focused on innovation there and new products for networking there, and focus far more on quality and less on quantity. So that's the third part of the process. You get those 3 done, and again, we're training on those in Voyager. We've got products for that, but you get those 3 done, and you'll succeed in the independent world.
Okay. Reminder to folks, if they want to ask questions, we've already had several questions come in, which we'll get to here in a couple of minutes. Hashtag independence and submit your questions, and also go in the drawing for a free 3-month trial of Voyager U. And then a reminder for all Clubby listeners, New Trail is the code to receive 1 month free when you become a Voyager U member. All right, so you have a process for taking the leap and going independent.
Mhm.
For folks that maybe haven't done something like this before, or as I mentioned, have been in corporate America their entire career, there's going to be some concerns and questions and some risks. Talk a little
Yep.
bit about the risks of going independent.
Yeah, yeah. So one of our ahas I didn't mention before is that we learned was going independent. The path to it, is kind of a S show. It's just not like clear, right? That the whole industry needs some guardrails and parameters and some more definition to it. Not that there's not players in it and innovation in it. It's not as clean as the job search industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we know that, so we feel safe there. It's risky, of course, but this is some of the risk is just the unknown. What is it like here? So you have to diffuse some of that risk, and of course, that's what the learning is. A couple of risks as you go in that are real. One is healthcare. If you go out on your own, you are in the open market for your own healthcare. You're not going to get that from an employer or one of your customers. Very unlikely for that to happen. So you have to learn and do that. Second is your 401k, how you save for tomorrow. That is no longer being matched someplace. So those are real things. Money is a risk, healthcare is a risk, and it's different. You end up taking care of them. There's a process and a methodology for that, but it's different. So those are two of the big risks that we hear a lot. Two of the not real risks, but they look like risk because people are afraid of them on the outset. Is one is sales. People are like, I can't sell. I'm not a salesperson. It's not really my bag. And so they think it's a risk. And what happens is they go through the process of learning how to do it. And it's not really about having a big agreeous personality. It's much more of a method. It's much more of a business process. And what was once thought to be a risk becomes not in that. And then the other one is, I think a risk I don't think is real, and it's turning out not to be, is the risk of being alone. The building where you used to work, or you're getting used to working in buildings with teams, and it's risky. All of a sudden, I'm going to be out by myself. And what you realize, you're trading your network and your community and the people around you from a set in a building group or to a smaller group to a much larger group. And in fact, most of our members have more people in their network and in their support community than they had before. They might have been on a team with 5 or 6 or 10 other players. Well, there isn't a Voyager now who doesn't have this huge list of humanity around them to support them in what they do. So that I think is thought to be a risk, but maybe not a real risk. So those couple things to think about.
And certainly that community can be built up or supplemented through Voyager U, as well as things like Club E.
You bet. Well, that's exactly it. That's why we're busy is, there's a reason this marketplace, this independent career is growing so fast is the job market really sucks. So people are finding a way to get out there. Well, Club E is it's a quality place to be, right? There's business here. The connection isn't, hey, Rick, you and I grew up together and went to high school together. It's not random. It's very focused. And so it diffuses the risk, that's for sure.
Okay. And a reminder to everybody, hit the subscribe and like button and stay in touch with our Club E sessions like we're having here today with John Arms of Voyager U. All right. So it's not all risk. There are certainly rewards for going independent. So as somebody with a portfolio career and a number of different things that you've been involved in over the years, talk a little bit about the many benefits and rewards of going independent and your experiences, as well as what you've seen through Voyager U.
Yeah. So I thought about this a lot, and I thought, the one that occurs again and again that always rises to the top is freedom. It really is the reward of having that personal freedom, and it's constant. Everybody, that's what's like. Why do you like this? Why do you do it? And what does that freedom feel like? And why do you have that? That is the number one reward. And freedom from what? Freedom from everything, simple things like the commute and maybe office politics, or freedom from bureaucracies, freedom from fear of losing your job because now you're making your own career. So I think Jason and I knew that was big, but boy, we hear it every single day. Just being unleashed from those burdens is huge, and people feel really, really good about that. So that freedom from that catastrophic moment if you are going to lose your job, you're sort of free for that here, right? Because you're going to go get another client or you're going to start another side hustle. So you can always go make new revenue. Whereas with that job, it's more acute. So freedom is a big one. And there's a lot that comes with that. Like freedom to dress how I want, freedom to work until 11:30 if I want, but then start at 9 or 10 or something like that. So freedom is a big one. The other reward I think is stress it's just different. The stress comes down because the control's in your hands. We get so stressed about things that we can't control. I can't control if my business is going to make, or my company is going to make money this year. I can't control the marketplace, and I can't control getting out, having to go to meetings that I'm not delivering value or not getting value out of that. They're out of our control. So that causes a lot of stress if we have a full-time job, as opposed to now, because you're in control, you're setting your client meetings, you've got your side hustles, you're sort of building your own thing. You're in complete control, and that stress just seems to go away. Other benefits, obviously the diversity, economic world tells us a lot about this, is you diversify your revenue streams, it's better, right? It's a better economic model. So that's one of the rewards as well. And you can make good money doing this, but mostly, you do make good money, but you get freedom. Freedom is a big deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So a reminder to everybody, #independence, get in the drawing for a free 3-month subscription of Voyager U. All Club E members get 1 month free when they sign up. New Trail, TRAIL is the code for that. And after you put in your questions, we will do our best to get to them. Speaking of which, I have a couple of questions here that I'd like to get to. First one is from Maria, and she asked about resources for folks going down this path. And I know that fits right into Voyager U, especially where you're trying to teach people to fish as opposed to fish for them. Talk a little bit about the resources that Voyager U offer, and help Maria with this question.
Sure. Yeah. So how do you package yourself up and sell yourself to the market? Whatever those skills are. And I think Maria, yours are in the graphic design space or somewhere in that space. That's what our learning chapters are for. Our middle chapters are all about that, assessing where your greatest skills are and how to package them up. In this case, that can be a technical question, right? Where do I put it? How do I display it to the world? That's more technical. We're more focused on how do you assess what provides value to the market, and how do you bring that to the market? And it's less technical and more really just winnowing down what your skills are and how they're marketable. That's if in the first 2 chapters of Voyager, that's really what we teach, and that applies whether you're a designer, an engineer, a financial person, IT. You have to understand what value you offer and package it up.
Okay. Question from John. How do you actually find and secure opportunities? His belief is that the ratio of executives looking for this kind of work outweigh the opportunities that there are. So how about the kind of marketing side and selling of yourself and finding these opportunities?
Yeah. So there's 2 dynamics at place there, John. One is this category has historically been there's suppliers who are going to bring you opportunities, or you're going to plug yourself into a place where there may or may not be enough. I think you had cited the ratio isn't so great. We teach you to fish. We teach you to build on your own resources and network and do things in a way that you have your own leads, you have your own method for flow of leads, and in that you get the yield out of that. So you know how to go get customers in a scalable, repeatable way, as opposed to feed off another scenario where the customers are already in, and you may or may not, you might be on the bench, but you may or may not get the assignment, and that's very frustrating. Again, that's one of those control things. It's out of your control, and that's a very tough place to be. So, the ratio thing, it's coming up more and more. And I think that's why we're growing, and this Voyager's growing, and this industry is growing. With people like, well, I mean, if I can get my own customers, and I'm going to charge them, let's say over the course of a year, you might get like $60,000 out of one customer. Well, you clearly would rather keep that $60,000 rather than give up 10, 20, 30%. Nothing wrong with those other models. There's good and bad to them, but ours is such where you keep all of it and build a scenario where you build your own flow as opposed to plug into something else.
Okay.
It's interesting right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, question from Don. Often sees kind of concern or skeptical of some of the opportunities about being in there, especially for folks later in their career. Although paying for gray is a theme that I know you can talk to. Tell us a little bit about paying for gray, whether it's truth or perception, and give us a little background on that.
Yeah, paying for gray or even lack of hair, right? Just paying for the age and wisdom that you've gained over the years. So Scott Galloway, Professor Galloway, the Prof G show, he talks about this a lot, and I highly recommend that listening to his podcast. But he talks about when times are good, which our economy is not in right now, we like grind, we like energy, we like youth because we can afford it and we can put a lot of activity in the marketplace, maybe to our workforce, and we're more concerned with the activity and less concerned with the output. When things are tough, you need wisdom, you need thought, you need process, you need those of us who have honestly failed at things so that we know what traps to avoid. That's the gray the marketplace really, really needs right now. Where it comes out is pretty obvious. Your finance people in a business are going to be able to tell you. If we're putting a nickel into a thing and we're not getting 10 nickels out, that's done. So all of that youth and energy and hiring for activity it's not showing yield. Out it goes, particularly in this economy. If we're putting a nickel into a very wise supplier and they're going to help us maybe save $500,000 on something we did before it got no yield, that shows up in the bottom line. So that's where companies are right now. They're looking at what kind of yield am I getting or not getting, and they're making those changes. We're going to be in that for a while. I mean, people need gray. They need the mistakes that you've made and learn and building off of those more than they need, 15 hours in a day of your energy grinding away at something that you don't even know if it has yield. There just isn't any room for that right now, and there won't be for a while. In fact, I'd argue there never has been.
Yep. So again, reminder, submit your questions in the comments field, #independence, get in the drawing for the 3-month subscription of Voyager U. Several more questions from Kevin. Kevin is an EOS integrator, and he's curious about leveraging virtual assistants. So talk about whether it's for Kevin as an EOS integrator or other folks using virtual assistants as a way to create leverage and extend one's capabilities and time.
Yeah. So I think it's great. I have one. We have one. Most of what we're doing these days is virtual. So I think it's a great thing for a couple of reasons. One, it's pretty affordable. And two, it's a dynamic we're all used to living right now. It's not like you have to kind of get used to this virtual thing. We're living in it and we're only going to live in it further. So I think it's pretty wise. Like anything else, if you're going to invest in something, you just have to watch what you're getting out of it and make sure just make sure it's returning value. Whether that's a virtual assistant, QuickBooks Online, wherever you're putting energy, just make sure you're getting the value out of it.
Okay. Question from Ed. And this is interesting in that I think it covers a lot of people. If your bank account is getting thin, would you still recommend an independent career or looking for a job to help pay the bills?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the decision for that is being made for you more than it's not. Those that we see looking for a job, the theme is pretty clear. So you're asking, where should you put your time? Should I do this or that? Well, I'll just go to the numbers. If you're a professional looking for a job, there's probably 100 to 120 other candidates and only one wins, whereas the other 119. So that math is not stacked in your favor right now. The problem with doing that pursuit is as well, you're going to spend a lot of time and energy to do that. And if you don't get the job, you don't have any yield. Now, if you go in the independent workforce and ours is a pretty low cost entry point. But if you go in and learn how to do this and start engaging in that, well, you're going to get 100% of your yield. It might take longer, and although I would say the job search seems to take longer than getting your first few customers or your first few side hustles going. You ultimately probably aren't going to be starting with, oh, I got my first few clients and I'm making, $180,000 a year. You're going to have to work your way to that, but there's a trickle of revenue going along the way as opposed to waiting for this. It's almost like catching a whale now. It's like, I'm going to get that job and I'm going to be, one out of 120. Well, that's big game hunting now, as opposed to, this independent thing. It's small pieces at a time, adding up to equal or more than that full-time thing. It's tough right now. So I don't say don't look for a job. I mean, if you fit in this, if you take our assessments and go, I'm made for this, or I should do this, then you should pursue this. But right now, it's just the numbers seem to be more in the favor for creating your own clients than getting that big game hunting thing and get a big job.
So that's an important message to share with folks. It's your belief that if you measured out the time against probability of getting that job versus spending time marketing yourself and solopreneur, your belief and experience with Voyager U is as folks are going to see some yield on that time on trying to promote themselves.
Our world has, he had mentioned that the bank account is getting thin. And definitely we see that. The time to get a job seems to be getting longer. And in fact, one of the tough things right now is people who are repurposing themselves in the economy or putting themselves into a job. Those jobs don't seem to be paying what they were paying before. You might have been getting 120 at a thing and now it's only paying 80. That's where the market is right now. So your time and energy, just even though it seems great, it's a bigger paying thing. It also seems like it's less. There's going to be less yield there. Money comes out of your bank in smaller pieces. You're not going to lose $200,000 at once. You're going to lose $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 at a time. And I feel good that I can go in, and those in our community can go in. It's like, well, I can do that. I can earn $4,000 or $5,000 in a month, and I can start to build that back up. So,
okay. Question from Tom: when you're a solopreneur, what's the best way to handle not having anybody to back me up?
So I had talked about networking before. Get in a community like ours. There's other members. You have to have a community of support. We've structured Voyager where it's people of all disciplines. So let's see, what kind of backup might you need? Well, you might need a financial eye, or you might need a marketing eye, or you might need an IT person. You might need a supplier in a certain category. Our community is full of people like that, so that's how you get your backup. Historically, that your backup used to be in the building. Like, oh, I just go over to that department and I ask that person for that backup, and that's kind of gone now for a lot of people. And so you have to put yourself in a scenario where you're going to find that. We're trying to do that with Voyager. I know it's hard to find because your LinkedIn community doesn't have that. You go in, it's like, well, I can find somebody random who has a skill, but who is in something closer than that I can rely on for backup, whether it's tactical, strategic, or otherwise. There's a lot of people in our community that are serving on boards for each other, advising each other's business. The intelligence backup is a big thing.
Good point. Very good point. Reminder to everybody, put your questions into the comment field, #independence, to get an opportunity to win a free trial, 3-month trial of Voyager U. And then also a reminder to everybody to hit the subscribe and like button. And lastly, if you want to dive into Voyager U, you can find it through clubby.com. Go to the courses section, and that will lead you right to Voyager U. All right, let's see. We have a question from Kevin. And he says, if you have a resource for finding virtual assistants, can you share a couple that you had success with? Maybe not an individual person, but maybe how you went about finding one or where you did that.
Yeah, so I've heard some people have had success with Ruby Receptionist. That's an online virtual assistant. You can sometimes hire an intern and deploy them as a virtual assistant. There's a lot of those right now. So those are two things that I've seen some good success at. Other virtual assistant areas, places to get those, I would say, seems like everybody in our community knows somebody who has those kind of skills on an independent way. So they might be reaching out to those and asking who's doing that. And then, of course, that begs the question, is there a shared resources for 4 or 5 people who are independent?
Okay.
So those are a couple places you can find virtual assistants.
Great, great. Hey, as you look at the economy, what are some leading indicators that would suggest to you that the economy is migrating towards this type of independent career?
Sure, there's several. A big one is tech. Tech is a tell. You know, the gear that the tech industry is creating and supplying that work for this has been in motion and continues to be. You know, things like Zoom, you know, that's and Canva, which is an online design platform. Upwork for getting paid, Venmo, Catch for putting your money aside. There's this whole world of tech that is sort of, it fits, it's almost built for independence. You know, QuickBooks, what does they have? 29 million QuickBooks Online subscribers now. So there's tech that's built for small and independent and simple and light, which is what the independent, you know, portfolio career is. So tech is definitely a tell. Law is a little bit of a tell right now going on in California. There's Proposition 22. How do you deal with remote workers? And that's more to do with Uber and that part of the remote economy. Or I'm sorry, the shared economy. But the law is starting to recognize that. There's unemployment laws in a lot of states now, specifically for people who are independent. So the law is quite a bit of a tell, and you're seeing progress in those. I think the stock market is a tell, or where money is starting to gravitate. A lot of dollars have been put into shared economy, independent economy platforms. Uber's done pretty well. Zoom has done pretty well. So there's that. When it comes to like Upwork, I think Stephen Casserole, I think he sold that for $1 billion. So the economy is saying there's something there that we're going to invest in. Melanie Perkins, who created Canva, I think she sold that for $1 billion. So where's the money going? That's a tell. That's a tell. I think culture is a little bit of a tell too. We're getting really used to working independent, at home, online, and all that that encompasses, and we're just getting used to it. We're not shocked about getting in somebody else's car for a ride. Our culture accepts a level of independence in other areas, whether it's ride sharing or renting a cabin through Airbnb. We accept that. So we're starting to accept, I don't have to have a big company. I don't have to have a full-timer. We accept independence more. And so that's a little bit of a tell. The biggest tell is always bottom line. You know, where is this a cheaper way to deploy talent, hire talent, and deploy talent than my other alternatives? Yes, it is. Is the yield equal or better? Yes, it is. And it's hard to argue with that tell. I mean, I wish there was more people that were independent suppliers of all sources when I was building businesses a long time ago, because I could have saved a lot of money.
Okay.
So those are a few tells.
Absolutely, and very good ones. Thanks for sharing
Mhm.
those. So you've had your own experiences in kind of assessing what this portfolio career and portfolio life looks and feels like. You also have interacted with many people through Voyager U. What
Mhm.
kind of person do you think is a good fit with an independent career?
Yeah, this might surprise you. People who are very good at process and math are very good fits. To do well here, you have to follow a process, you have to be methodical, you have to get your ducks in a row and keep them that way. So engineers, you know, software programmers, you know, math people, introverts are actually really good at this, as it turns out. I think the outside perspective is great, big, loud, noisy people who can really master a room are going to do well here. And that's actually not the case. It's a little harder for that population. So people who are really good at sort of the methodology and embrace it, really like it, are really, really good at this. It's not nearly it's a journey, but it's not nearly the sort of the I don't know, unplanned pursuit that a lot of people think it is. It's a very methodical thing. So those people do well.
Okay, and then the flip side, and you touched on it a little bit, but what kind of person do you think is not necessarily a great fit to have this independent career and the associated lifestyle?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that it's people that it's not a fit for are those who are more, it sounds weird, but solo runners, you have to collaborate. So people who don't collaborate well, it's not going to do well. It really isn't. You have to be comfortable working with other people, listening to other ideas, and sort of building success out of a group, which sounds odd because it sounds like, well, this is an independent career, isn't it inherently solo? People who just think solo and it's got to be my way or the highway, that's not a good fit. You can roll in ego and arrogance, that never is good because you have to be nice to people in this world. But I don't think that's good for any job anywhere. But yeah, if you're not good at collaboration, this is not necessarily a good choice.
Okay. So we've had a lot of great questions come in. Reminder, if there's a few last ones out there, put them into the comments field right now. Again, hashtag independence for that free subscription. Go to clubby.com in the courses section to learn a little bit more about Voyager U and get a pointer there. All right. So as we get close to the finish line, I do have another question. Tom asks about, speaking of laws, 1099 versus the employee thing that's might be changing. If somebody doesn't want to be an employee, but sometimes the regulations scare them away from contracting versus hiring, what's your take on kind of the understanding the legalities of everything and how this 1099 versus employee issue is going to break out?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not a law guy. We have inside of our training, there's things that help you learn a little bit about that. Our best advice is to talk to an attorney. I just can't give legal advice, nor should I, nor should you listen to it if I ever do. But again, what's the flexible way to do that? One of our affiliates is Legal Shield. You can talk to Tim, um, and get access to somebody to help you with that. I think you make a good point. It does seem to be in a constant state of flux, doesn't it? The law in the independent career. It's been changing a lot, and there's a lot of illegal attention on it right now. So you do have to kind of keep your fingers on the pulse. In that way, you need to have a good lawyer.
Okay, and the Legal Shield connection through Voyager U. Talk about that just real briefly.
Yeah, so we've got several people that we just like and they like us for the reason of helping people be independent. To do this means, oh, I'm going to be independent. Where do I get my legal help? We have Legal Shield because it's like, well, you can have an attorney, but how do you start? They've got a very nice, simple way to sort of package up what you need on the legal side, whether you're starting your LLC or other aspects that can help you with that. So they're a partner. Another great partner is FriendNet. Some people do this and they're looking to franchise. Well, we're at the top of what we're doing is we're trying to normalize, the independent career choice. Well, that means a lot of things. That means I'm only a consultant. That means I'm a consultant plus, a guy like me who has a side hustle and builds furniture and makes duck calls and has this Voyager thing. So it's and being a FriendNet affiliate is good because it helps people be independent. So those are a few that we have our affiliation with you. You guys are all about entrepreneurship. So those are a few affiliates inside of our orbit that we're very blessed to have relationships with and engage
Great.
with them.
Question from Ed. What are some of the popular independent careers?
Popular independent careers. There's a lot of people out of traction that are good at being independent that are out there right now. If you are in financial management, that is a great popular independent career. Marketing and creative services is a good independent career. More and more financial, your CFO types, your accountant types, those are popular independent careers. What's interesting is how much those are changing over time. It used to be some of these roles you would never consider having outside of the house, but they make a lot of sense now. IT is growing as a popular independent career, programming and things like that. So it's hard to find some that are not. The market seems to have a good appetite for independence as a thing, and then it plucks out those specific skills that it wants, and it's plucking them out almost from every category right now.
So we have a question from Tammy, and this feeds into a little bit something we covered earlier, but I think a little different take on it. How do you get in front of people in the corporate space to be considered for projects? So many seem to be going through agencies. I know your roots for the company started in the marketing space, so this I think would be something that you could definitely address.
Yeah. So how do you get in front of those opportunities is the question. Well, one, you read chapter 3 of Voyager, because we walk, through that whole thing. Here's how you do it. There's a, I think there's a mentality where do I plug myself into? Where do I get on the bench? This kind of goes back to where we're spending our innovation time. How you network, the meaningfulness and value of how you network. And this is what a few of the products we're launching on, very meaningful networking. How you networking how you network has everything to do how you get in front of the companies that need your services. They just don't know it. And so it really relies on your skillful networking and how you do that. Not so much quantity of networking, but the quality of what you do. And I know that's kind of a mind blower for a lot of people. It's like, where do I go? What bench am I on? Who do I talk to get this? You have to sort of take the mentality of, we teach you to fish. I'm going to go out and develop that on my own. It sounds hard. Quite honestly, it's easier than being on some of the benches, because there's less competition. There's so much competition on the benches that it's tough to be picked out.
Yeah. So John actually taps into that with another question. Hey, any broad averages around metrics and the ratio of time spent in one-on-one networking meetings versus other things to try to find clients?
Yeah. So we got a couple in the early chapters we've got on this. You should be spending, I'll just give you some broad numbers. You should be spending about 2 hours every week on the operations of your business. You should be spending about 5 hours every week on your pipeline. Okay, so 2 hours on the business per week, 5 hours. Now that's leaving you, if you're working a 40-hour week, there's 30 some other hours for actually doing what you do. Here's the thing, it's the consistency over that. If you just, I'm really busy with clients right now, I'm going to not pay attention to my pipeline, that'll bite you in the butt a little bit later on. So 2 hours on ops, 5 hours on new business. That might be a little aggressive, but the market's a little tougher right now on everybody's business. So those are some good parameters to have in mind.
Okay.
You'll have to look at your margin, like how efficient can you be in the rest of the time you're providing services for your clients. That's where your gray hair comes in. At this stage of your life, if you're doing this, you are massively efficient. And I think that, speaking of time, I think that's one of the biggest things people have to grapple with is, I don't need to grind for 8 hours for a client. I can figure this out in about 2, because I've failed and learned so many times. Well, the value to your client is through the roof on that. You have to sort of embrace that thinking.
Okay. All right. So we're heading to the finish line here. Appreciate your time, John. Again, folks can learn about Voyager U by going to clubby.com, go into the courses section, and that will take you right to Voyager U. And then if you had to kind of sum up our conversation today, if there was one takeaway that you wanted to leave the audience with, whether it's something that we've already covered that you want to reiterate, or maybe it's something we haven't gotten to, but what would that one main thing that you'd like the audience to take away be?
Learn how to protect your career. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, is protect your career. Learn how to do that. Your career, everybody's career right now is up and it's changed, right? It's completely changed. Get yourself in a situation where, as that change comes, what things new do I know on how to protect my own career? Learn how to do that. Now, we hope with Voyager, that's what we're teaching, is how to protect your career. How do you keep it fit? Learn how to protect your career. there has been a habit of being in a job for such a long time and being so, you get more and more entrenched at that company, and then it all goes south and you're starting from zero. Stay healthy in your career. Do things like Voyager to keep your career protected versus letting that part of you get stagnant. So that would be one that I think a lot of people who are doing this wish they did before. I wish I didn't let my network get stagnant. I wish I kept learning about how to be independent or learning my own skill. Yeah.
All right. One last question. I lied. Stephen, just something to leave everybody with, because I think that's the main concern, or one of the key concerns with independent workers, is the feast or famine mentality. So what's one nugget you might leave people with as they try to wrestle with that issue, and then we will call it quits?
Yeah. So feast or famine, it's often what historically people said that's been the problem. And it's very simple why. Because the process has been, I get a client, I work so much on the client, I don't pay attention to the next client. We have more tools and more resources now to keep that reality from happening. Our 3-3-3 product, which is all about, what do you do in your first 3 days, your next 3 weeks, and the next 3 months, the methodical approach, which quite honestly, you're probably applying in your full-time job if you have one right now, some level of process. You just have to apply that to your own business. You'll always have a full pipeline, and the process of it, the repetition of it is key. Right. It's easier now than ever, right? I mean, we got things like HubSpot and CRMs. Like, it's not like there's a lack of tools to keep a pipeline going. It's that discipline to keep feeding it, and don't step so much into a client's thing where you're forgetting about your own business.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much for your time, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Look forward to having you back, and enjoy your fall with duck hunting and woodworking.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I feel very blessed to have had this opportunity today.
All right, great. Thank you.